HOA Karen graffitied neighbor's wall, got sued and fined $300K in damages. The neighborhood was quiet, but not the kind of quiet that soothes. It was the kind that crackles with unspoken grudges. Karen Mitchell, the self-appointed queen of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, had just spray-painted trash in garish red across her neighbor's pristine white wall. The act wasn't just vandalism, it was a declaration of war. Lila Carter, a 32-year-old single mother, had moved into Willow Creek 6 months ago, hoping for a fresh start. Her modest ranch-style home, with its neatly trimmed lawn and cheerful flower boxes, was her sanctuary after years of scraping by. But Karen, with her clipboard and her rulebook, had other plans. From the moment Lila parked her slightly dented minivan in the driveway, Karen's hawkish eyes had zeroed in. That vehicle lowers property values. She'd sneered at the first HOA meeting Lila attended, her voice dripping with disdain. Lila, soft-spoken but resolute, ignored the jabs, focusing instead on her daughter, Mia, and her new job as a nurse. But Karen wasn't one to let things slide. The trouble started small, nitpicky citations for Lila's mailbox being 0.2 inches too tall or her recycling bin being visible from the street. Lila complied, adjusting the mailbox, hiding the bin, even repainting her front door when Karen claimed the shade of blue was non-compliant. But Karen's demands escalated. She'd stalk Layla's property line, snapping photos of every perceived infraction, her heels clicking like a metronome of malice. Whispers spread among the neighbors, Karen had a vendetta, and Lila was her target. The real spark ignited when Lila planted a small vegetable garden in her backyard. It was a practical choice, fresh tomatoes and zucchini for Mia's lunches. A way to save a few bucks. Karen, however, saw it as an affront to the HOA's aesthetic standards. She issued a violation notice, demanding the garden be removed within 48 hours. Lila, exhausted from a 12-hour shift, wrote a polite appeal, explaining the garden's importance to her and Mia. The HOA board, cowed by Karen's influence, rejected it. That's when Karen took matters into her own hands. Under the cover of dusk, Karen crept to Lila's property with a can of red spray paint she'd bought at the hardware store. She didn't just deface the wall, she unleashed years of pent-up superiority, scrawling trash and move out in jagged, angry strokes. The paint bled into the cracks of the stucco, a permanent scar on Lila's home. Karen stepped back, admiring her work, convinced she'd finally put the outsider in her place. The next morning, Lila stepped outside to take Mia to school and froze. Her heart sank as she read the hateful words glaring from her wall. Mia, only 7, tugged at her hand, confused. "Mommy, why does it say that?" Lila's throat tightened. She knelt, forcing a smile. "It's just a mistake, sweetheart. We'll fix it." But inside, rage simmered. This wasn't just about a wall, it was about her dignity, her daughter's safety, her right to belong. Words spread like wildfire. Neighbors gathered, some sympathetic, others gawking. Karen, undeterred, stood on her porch, smirking as Lila scrubbed at the paint with a bucket of soapy water. "Maybe if you followed the rules, this wouldn't have happened," she called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. Lila's hands trembled, but she kept scrubbing, refusing to give Karen the satisfaction of a response. Enter Tom, the neighborhood's quiet handyman, who'd lived in Willow Creek for decades. He was the kind of man who fixed fences and mowed lawns without being asked, his weathered hands a testament to his unassuming kindness. Tom had watched Karen's reign of terror for years, staying silent to avoid her wrath. But seeing Lila, a woman who reminded him of his late daughter huddled over that defaced wall, something in him snapped. He approached Lila, his voice low but firm. "I saw her do it. Last night, around 8 p.m., Karen was out here with the paint can. I've got it on my security camera." Lila's eyes widened. "You're sure?" Tom nodded, pulling out his phone to show grainy footage of Karen, unmistakable in her floral blouse, shaking the spray can and defacing the wall. It was a bombshell, a twist no one saw coming. Lila's despair shifted to determination. She wasn't just going to clean the wall, she was going to fight back. The confrontation came at the next HOA meeting, held in the community center's stuffy meeting room. Karen sat at the head of the table, her usual throne, fielding complaints about overgrown hedges with her trademark condescension. Lila walked in, clutching Tom's USB drive with the footage. The room fell silent as she plugged it into the projector. "Before we discuss hedges," Lila said, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach, "I'd like to address the vandalism of my home." The video played. Gasps rippled through the room as Karen's image filled the screen, her face illuminated by a streetlight as she scrawled her venom. Karen's smug expression crumbled. "That's not me," she stammered, but the evidence was undeniable. Neighbors who'd once cowered under her rule now glared, their whispers turning to murmurs of outrage. Lila didn't stop there. She presented photos of the damaged paint so deeply embedded it would require professional removal, costing thousands. She'd already consulted a lawyer who estimated the total damage, including emotional distress, at $300,000. Karen's defense was a masterclass in deflection. She claimed Lila's garden was a blight that justified her actions, that she was protecting the neighborhood's value. But the tide had turned. Tom spoke up, his voice shaking with rare anger. "You've bullied the street for years, Karen. You don't get to play victim now." Another neighbor, Mrs. Patel, added fuel to the fire, revealing Karen had once fined her $500 for a non-compliant mailbox she'd never even installed. The room erupted in accusations, years of resentment spilling over. The legal battle that followed was swift and brutal. Lila's lawyer, a sharp pro bono advocate named Sarah, built an airtight case. The security footage, combined with testimonies from Tom and other neighbors, painted Karen as a malicious vandal. The judge didn't mince words. Karen's actions were a deliberate attack on private property and personal dignity. The court ordered her to pay $300,000 in damages, $50,000 for repairs, $200,000 for emotional distress, and $50,000 in punitive fines to deter future behavior. Karen's savings were gutted, her reputation in tatters. The HOA stripped her of her presidency, and for sale signs sprouted in her yard within weeks. But the victory wasn't sweet for Lila. The wall was repainted, but the memory of those hateful words lingered. She sat with Mia one evening, explaining why people sometimes do cruel things. "It's not about us, baby," she said, stroking her daughter's hair. "It's about them being unhappy with themselves." Mia nodded, but her small hand clutched Lila's tightly. The neighborhood changed after that. Tom started a community garden project, dedicating the first plot to Lila and Mia. Mrs. Patel organized a block party where neighbors shared stories of Karen's overreach, laughing and healing together. Lila, once an outsider, became a quiet leader, her resilience a beacon for others. Karen, meanwhile, moved to a condo across town, her name a cautionary tale whispered at HOA meetings. The $300,000 fine wasn't just a number, it was justice, hard-won and bittersweet. Lila didn't revel in it. She didn't need to. She had her home, her daughter, and a community that finally saw her. What do you think? Did Karen get what she deserved? Or was the punishment too harsh? Share your thoughts below.